In the land of Lothric, the fire fades and the lords go without thrones. When the link of fire is threatened, the bell tolls, unearthing the old lords of Sidda from their graves. Only to be put right back in by this guy. Hey honey.
Yeah?
We'll be looking at more Soulsborne fist moves now.
Okay.
In Dark Souls 3, we have only 2 weapons that I would consider as fist weapons. I don't really care about these weird claw things, and the Dark Hand has just 1 strike and it sucks. Literally. So we'll take a look at Unarmed, Cestus, and the Demon's Fist. First up is of course Unarmed. One-handed light attack string is an overhand with so much forward momentum it carries him into a stepping side change, and from there, a back fist. It would be just fine if the character didn't lean like a Sireum wrestler for his bonkers wild overhand. To be fair, the same issue was with Elden Ring 2, and I'll tell you how to fix it later on. Alright, then is the one-handed heavy. A stepping cross, side-changing step, and an over-exaggerated uppercut. And the same with a long wind-up.
Oh no.
This one I've never understood. There's no such thing as loading up a punch, really. It doesn't matter how long you take to flex your muscles and shake your fist while winding up for a strike. The power generation still relies on pushing from the ground, rotating your hips, and twisting the shoulders. If you hang around in the starting position for 2 seconds just wasting time, do you really think they'll still be standing there waiting for you to punch?
That is a valid point.
I know. Then we've got a parry. Parry itself is a great skill to have, but just like with everything else in Souls games, he's really overcommitting to it in terms of hand-to-hand parry. Generally, you'd want to keep the movement of your parry as compact as possible, preferably move while parrying to find a more suitable angle for a counterattack. I don't know about weapon fighting all that much, but I could see this kind of long and wide parry working against maybe a spear. Move in after the opponent weaves their attack and push the weapon aside for an opening. Some weapon expert in the comments can chime in and tell me if I'm completely off. Rolling light is, well, a roll followed by an upward back fist. The upward back fist is weird, and rolling isn't a great way to dodge anything. Maybe it could work if we repurpose the roll into like a Kyokushin Doumawashi Kaitengeri or Rolling Thunder. And the upward back fist could be sort of a frame to protect yourself while standing up if the kick doesn't land. Kinda weird, but it could work. Maybe. Then is the running light. Running light is a back fist. It's okay. Not the first punch I'd throw after running at someone, but doesn't hurt to try something new every once in a while.
You know, get them... catch them by surprise.
Yeah, sure. Running heavy is a jumping downwards punch. Why would you ever punch the ground? If you get your opponent to the ground, then a running jump attack isn't the best course of action. And if they're not on the ground, why are you punching there? Just change it to something like a Superman cross and it'd be fine.
But they're so strong, so the ground shakes with their punch.
Okay. Then we have a kick.
My
Neat.
goodness.
Yes. Kicking is one of my favorite things to do with pants on.
I have noticed.
So what's wrong with it? Well, let's take a look. It's a rear leg front kick, but he takes a step forward, telegraphing what he's about to do. Stepping into a roundhouse is perfectly valid, but the rear leg teep doesn't need this kind of hip opening, since the power generation for a front kick comes from pushing the hips forward. If you need to close the distance for a front kick, then disguise it with punches. Don't just step in there. Also, he doesn't properly return the kick, so his balance is pretty wonky. On top of all this, the kick is a little lopsided, something between a front and a side kick, so it loses the best qualities of both. Front kicks are easier to get height for and to have your body weight behind. Side kicks are easier to cover distance with and have a bit more penetrating power since you get your whole entire ass into it, and the contact point is a bit smaller with the side of the heel. this just kinda loses the benefits of both. Easy fix is not twisting your hips so much and rotating the kicking legs toes upwards. Also, keep your hands in check. But even like this, it'll work just fine. Generally, front kick is the easiest kick to make work even when done wrong. I assume the biggest reason for the front kick looking like this is so you can see the whole move from behind the player character. If it was a technically proper teep, you wouldn't really see anything. So Unarmed was pretty fine. Nothing too major wrong with it, just a bit of overswinging and like weird kicks. Get your boys and gather in the Colosseum because next we'll take a look at the Cestus. As a refresher, Cestus is the name for the ancient Roman boxing gloves that are made of leather and incorporate spikes or studs for extra damage and to inflict a bleeding debuff. Boxing using Cestus differs from modern boxing, of course, by what kind of gloves were used, but specifically for its use of hammer fists. An interesting excerpt from the Roman epic Aeneid describes these strikes. Then Entellus, rising, put forth his right, lifted high. The other speedily foresaw the down-coming blow, and slipping aside with nimble body, foiled it. Okay, now the techniques themselves. One-handed light and heavy are the same as the unarmed. The difference comes in when two-handing the Cestus. Two-handed light is a 6-strike combo. There's no use naming the strikes because all of them are just something between a hook and a straight, but from slightly different angles. It's like technique-less swinging basically. First thing I'd fix is the dragging of the feet. He barely lifts them and just glides across the floor. It makes the strikes look sloppy and badly timed. Usually you'd want to step at the same time as your strike lands to maximize the power distribution. I mean, these would hurt either way, especially with the hard leather and studs on the Cestus. But let's see what kind of combo we can dig up under all this leather-strapped manure. It could be a stepping jab, cross, hook with a forward walking step, overhand to get their attention and guard up, uppercut or a shovel hook to punish for raising the guard, followed by a cross to push back or knock down the opponent. That's a neat and perfectly functional combo with good angle and height changes, don't you think?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I'd use that, at least.
I think you would look very good using it.
Shut up. Then we have the weapon art Perseverance. It's basically a stylized boxing cross guard, just like Elden Ring's Cestus Ash of War Endure, if you remember that one. You see this multiple times in media like Hajime no Ippo.
Ooh.
It's not one-to-one with real-life boxing cross guard, which is more of a transitional guard.
What is it?
I'm glad you asked. Well, if the opponent punches you while you're moving between different stances, for example, from a Philly shell to a peekaboo, you can throw a cross guard in there to momentarily shield yourself while transitioning between guards. Guards, blocks and stances shouldn't be thought of as static things anyway, but as a dynamic and constantly changing way of shielding yourself and looking for different angles of attack. I might talk about fighting stances more some other time. So, how was the Cestus? Compared to its counterpart in Elden Ring, this is pretty mediocre. No, the karate hikite, or even elbows like they did in Elden Ring, and the strikes are swinging and amateurish. Also, they don't incorporate the hammer fists traditionally used in Cestus combat. I'm just glad they don't have a jump button in the Dark Souls games, so I don't have to see another of, Lastly, we'll look at the Demon's Fist. Now these look like they'd really hurt yourself. Here again, everything else is the same as the Cestus and the Unarmed, except the weapon art. Instead of boxing crossguard, we have a fire spin.
Helicopter, helicopter!
After the spin, you can heavy attack for a ground slam that creates this fire pillar. I really don't know what to say here, they just kinda... I don't like the overly jagged design and the weapon art is just silly.
Cringe!
There are a lot more interesting fantasy fist weapon designs. For example, the Beowulf from Devil May Cry 3 or the Nemean Cestus from God of War 3. Lots of threes today. The spinning could be done as a series of hooks and back fists instead of being a Beyblade. Dark Souls 2 actually does this fairly well, more on that some other day. And as I said earlier, ground punching always irks me. Here I kinda get it with the whole fire magic, but still, wouldn't it be a lot more functional to shoot the fire out like straight in front of you instead of on the ground and then up? Herein lies the biggest problem of all the fist moves in this game. The forward leaning.
Not good, very bad.
Now let me fix it in one fell swoop. You just take this and bap. Fix it. I think all these moves would look a lot more competent with just a little less leaning and overswinging. I kinda get it why they do it though. With the camera in most fights being slightly above and behind your character, the leaning and overswinging creates a clearer silhouette and gives the moves a more powerful feeling. But I'm still going to complain because I want to. Well, that was the Dark Souls 3 fist weapons. What do you think, sweetie?
Pretty cringe.
Cool.